it's Naomi and welcome to my gluten-free kitchen. Today we are making gluten-free, allergy-friendly Cinnabon clone. Aren't you excited? Are you ready to get started? Okay, now today is a complicated recipe. I would call it an advanced level recipe. So I'm going to show you a couple things and I'm going to skip very quickly through them for time's sake, okay? So listen closely and watch carefully. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to make your icing and your filling as soon as I find the ingredients. So for our filling, we are going to use 1/3 of a cup or 80 milliliters of melted margarine. We're going to keep that separate, okay? We're going to use 1 cup or 200 grams of a good light brown sugar and 2.5 teaspoons or about 6.5 grams of regular old cinnamon. You're going to mix these together, not the margarine, until it resembles a fine crumb. Can you see that? We're going to set that aside for now until we need it in just a minute. We are also going to mix up our icing. As soon as I find all those ingredients. My goodness. There we go. Okay, for our icing, we are going to use 3 ounces or 80 grams of cream cheese or a dairy-free sub like Daya. We're going to use a 1/4 cup or 57 grams of butter or dairy-free margarine like Smart Balance. And then we are going to use 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. If you're corn-free, Better Batter makes a great corn-free powdered sugar. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. I've used clear, and that's about 2 grams. And then 1/8 teaspoon or about 1 gram of salt. Now, I will be making bread dough with my mixture today. So I will not be mixing this up live for you, but listen carefully. So what you're going to do is you're going to put them in the bowl. You're going to put the paddle on and mix it on high speed. It will start as a crumbly mixture, okay? And you will think it is too dry. Do not add liquid. As you mix it on high speed over a 3-minute period, you will get a gooey, rich frosting. It's just the right texture to both melt into the buns and to settle on top and make a crust. So you want to just keep mixing until it smooths out and becomes a glaze. Let's set these aside and then I'll teach you how to make the dough. Hello. Okay. Now, if you want accuracy in baking, you should always bake by weight, but I will also provide volume measurements if you prefer. We are going to put in 4.5 cups or about 571 grams. It's about the weight of bread flour of a good cup-for-cup gluten-free flour. Now, if your flour can be used in any normal recipe and actually work, it'll work in this recipe. But of course, I like Better Batter. We're also going to add about 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons, or about 22.5 grams of psyllium husk powder. That's going to help us manage the dough. And we are also going to put in 1/2 cup or 100 grams of sugar. I mean, it's a Cinnabon clone. I guess you could use a sugar substitute, but you're 800 calories in. That's not going to hurt you. Well, I mean, it's going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying, but you might as well. If you want to use something else, you could use coconut palm sugar or a granulated monk fruit extract. You're going to put in about 2.5 teaspoons or about 8 grams of instant yeast. Not sufficient to be active dry. Must be like bread machine yeast, instant yeast. And we're going to put in about 1 teaspoon or 6 grams of salt. We're going to mix all that together so it's evenly combined. As soon as I find my mixer thing, lose my head if it wasn't put on with bones. And now we're going to add our liquids. So we are going to start with 2 cups of milk. Now you can use dairy-free milk. Right here I have a homemade hemp seed milk that I made, or you could use regular milk or any commercially available milk. I prefer to use a higher fat content milk because if we're going in, we might as well go all in. That works out to about 473 milliliters of liquid. You can use 2 eggs. If you cannot have eggs, you can use flax gel or chia gel. Now I just did a tutorial on this on my other channel, Naomi's Allergy Friendly Kitchen. All right, it's about a half a cup if you're not using eggs. It's about a half a cup or about 60 ml. And about 2/3, excuse me, 2/3 of a cup of melted margarine, which works out to about 160 ml. And we are going to turn that on high speed. For about 4 minutes, which is a long time, I know. I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to show you how to roll it out. We're going to pretend that that was 4 minutes. Okay, so as you beat this, it will get thicker and thicker, and as it rises, it will get thicker and thicker. You're going to start off with something that looks a little bit like drop cookie dough. You see that? You're going to take this dough, you're going to put it into an oiled bowl. You're going to let it rise for about a half an hour. And when it is risen, it may or may not double, but it will definitely have, I don't know if you could see that. Let's get that. It will definitely have dimpling and lots of little air pockets and air bubbles all over it. You're going to take a large rolling mat. Now, this could be your favorite Silpat. It could be plastic wrap in a pinch. It could be a really well floured gingham. But you're going to put a rolling mat down. You cannot make this without a rolling mat. And you're going to generously flour your surface. You do not want this dough sticking as you roll it up. Now this is not to say that you want a ton of flour, but you want a nice even coat. Okay, if you don't have a shaker, just use your fingers and make a snow. Okay, just like that. We're going to turn the dough out onto, don't mind the mess, turn the dough out onto the surface, and we are going to coat the surface with more flour. Same way, just make a snow. Okay? And then we are going to press it out into a rough rectangle. Flour more if you need to. And at this stage, I check to see if it's going to start sticking. I add a decent amount of flour. All right. You don't want to knead flour into the dough. We need it to be a sticky dough in order for it to rise properly and get that nice big fluffy structure. Now we're going to take our rolling pin and we're going to roll it out into about a 16 by 21 inch rectangle. Now a mistake people make is they just keep rolling and their ends get thinner than their center. Then they have a thick doughy center and really wimpy ends. Make sure you always roll from the center out towards the ends and then from center to make the rectangle square. Okay? You want this to be about a 1/4 inch or slightly thicker. Okay. And now we are going to make a mess. We're going to spread our filling. As soon as I find my butter, where did I place my butter? Just gonna have to make more butter. I'm still here. Give me a second. Okay, do you remember the filling I told you about? We're going to use 1/3 cup or 80 milliliters of not hot, but definitely melted margarine or butter. We are going to spread it all over the surface with our hands. I have found the hand is the best way to do it. Leaving 1.5 inches at the very edge where you do not butter so that the edge can seal. Then you're going to take your mixed cinnamon and sugar. Remember how we mixed it all up? I do hope we mixed it all up. What didn't mix it all up? Oh, there's my butter and cinnamon. I put it up on the counter. Okay, well, I'm mixing this up, so now we'll have extra for cinnamon toast. We take our mixed up mixture, unlike mixed up Naomi, and we are going to sprinkle it evenly all over the surface of the rolls, wherever the butter is, which means we do not put it where the blank spot is. I'm going to spread it and then press it in lightly to make sure it adheres. And now we're going to roll it. Now you may run into a situation where it's very slightly sticks. I'm going to get a little extra flour. That way, if it sticks, I can apply a little bit of extra flour so that I can still work with the dough. Okay, take your rolling mat and you're going to flip it up. If you see something sticking, take a spatula or your hand and just kind of gently work it off the surface. And you're just going to keep rolling little by little. Really shouldn't stick much. Can you see that? And when you get to your last 1.5 inches, you're going to roll it back so that the seam is facing you. And you're going to pinch the edges, and then you're just going to very gently with floured fingers pinch that loose seam to seal. You want to make sure you apply a little bit of flour onto your rolling mat for this next step and across the surface of your roll, because now we're going to do what I call the sushi roll, which is just to make sure that it's nice and even so we get perfectly shaped roll, and to make sure it's not sticking. Okay, when we go to move it, you're going to give it one last roll so the seam is seam side down. And now I am going to show you my magic trick. We're going to use dental floss. We might not floss very often in this house, but I sure use it for baking. You're going to take your dental floss, you're going to go underneath, and at about every 2 inches, you are going to crisscross the dental floss and pull tight, and it will give you perfect little slices. Then you're going to take a spatula or some other support system, because sometimes this dough is very soft, and you are going to lift. You're going to lift the dough away from the rolling mat, and you're going to place it into a pan with parchment paper in it, which I just realized I forgot. So a pan with parchment paper. If I can find the parchment paper. Hey, I'm a real mom. Okay, so you put the parchment paper on top of the pan, you try to push it in, and you're gonna lay the cinnamon rolls. You should get 12 if you cut them about right. If you get 9, you just get something that's more like the authentic Cinnabon. You're just gonna lay them nestled close to each other into the pan. You're gonna keep cutting, and you're gonna keep pushing, cutting and putting until the pan is full. Then you're gonna let it rise for about half an hour. Let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, they get really huge. I mean, really huge. And you're gonna pop these into a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. If they look like they need about 5 more minutes, that's okay too. But in my experience, it only takes about 15 minutes on a cold day, maybe up to 25 minutes to cook until they're fully cooked through, the top is golden, and you can see the filling bubbling. And that takes us all the way back to the beginning. Do you remember when I was icing these? You're going to take your icing as soon as they come out of the oven. You're going to spread about half of it on. Later, if you feel like you need some more, about 5 minutes later, because there is a window of time, you're going to go ahead and spread more on. And what you are going to have, hot, yummy, is a delicious, not nutritious, Cinnabon style cinnamon roll. So good. Very yummy. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any requests for new recipes that I can make gluten-free, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to fulfill your requests. And don't forget, if you like this video, subscribe, share, and tell a friend. Thank you and have a wonderful day. And don't forget, I love you. Bye.